18 months at a time. But what was very, very difficult was my wife, Roxana, has a very good career going for herself. And at the time, when we first started discussing with the NBA, it was kind of like she was going to have to, give up her career to allow me to have this opportunity. And that was something that I felt very, very, I'm not sure what the word is. I guess it's awkward because you would never want to ask your partner to sacrifice their career for you. It's selfish when you do it like that. But fortunately, her boss was very accommodating, and he actually transferred her down here, which really, that took such a huge burden off me, because I was like, she's a very career-focused person, my wife, and for her to have to sit home and not be able to do anything constructively with her career, I thought that was going to put enormous pressure on our relationship. But fortunately, she's been able to work from home now, and her career hasn't missed a beat. In fact, if anything, it's probably gotten stronger. So it's given her another opportunity to learn some more things and to do some other, just to help work on her career, which is great. It's something that I certainly, if I was to advise anybody else doing that, you really have to sort of plan things and prepare things as best you can, but also understand that there's almost no way to escape the stress of moving countries and moving cities, because there's so much logistics that go into it, and simple things like just when you come to a new country, like getting a bank account, your driver's license, getting your medical insurance. All those things are very, very difficult once you get here. And the first 6 months for us were very trying, because the other thing was we had the pressure of trying to create this show and put it on TV and be successful and hope people would watch us and enjoy us. And so there was a lot of pressure on everybody. And then that's, JD, the producer, he had 2 kids who were in school. He had to bring those 2 down. It was very difficult, but of course, when you have an opportunity like this, and my wife was very understanding of this part of it, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you simply can't give it up. You have to at least try and see what happens, and if things don't work out, then you retreat back to where you were. But when an opportunity like this is presented, you have to do everything within your power to try to grasp it, because it is. I mean, we look now at NBA TV, and we see sometimes Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley, and they come in and they say hello to us, and that, and it's really surreal.
Crazy,
to think that those guys, I mean, we were colleagues with those guys, and, it's an amazing opportunity, and every single day I do wake up and I really do feel like, wow, this is something that's very, very special.
So you have a funny story about running into Shaq in the bathroom?
Yeah, well, this is the story. So we have our little production meeting in this room, and there's 2 bathrooms just off to the side, and I go into the bathroom sometimes just to change to get ready for the show, because you don't want to wear what you're wearing on the show all day long.
Yeah.
So I went into the bathroom to change, and as I came out, this enormous figure of a man, Shaquille O'Neal, was waiting to come in, and he said, did you have a number 1 or number 2? and I was just like lost for words. And I said, Shaq, it's fine. I was just getting changed, going in there. He said, I think I'm going to wait a minute. And I'm just like, this is
crazy.
It's just a crazy experience. He was asking me if I, just took a number 1 or number 2. But the funny thing is, like, Shaq, I have to say, is a very humble person. We obviously don't know him that well, but we see him from time to time, and he says hello, and he has a bit of a laugh with us. And
nice.
One day, for one thing we were doing, I had an Aussie rules football in there, and Shaq just happened to be walking past when I had the ball out. And so I kicked it to him, and he picked it up, and he said, "Oh, what is this, a rugby ball?" And I said, "Well, it's actually Aussie rules, but I know sometimes that's hard to explain to people who aren't familiar with both games." And anyway, so Shaq picked the ball up, and I said, "Here, let me take a photo, because this would look great. Aussie rules fans would love this." And so Shaq smiled, took a photo, posed. I mean,
nice.
Shaq's not some guy who can't stand out. He's an enormous human being, and everywhere he goes, everyone knows who he is, and he still has time for those sorts of things, and that's why I have such respect for him.
Cool. So, can you take me through a typical work day at the Stardust, from the time you get up to the time you go to sleep?
Well, yeah. Basically, when we're asleep, that's when we're not working. It is funny like that. Like we get in around about 9:30, 10 o'clock each morning, and we start preparing for the show that airs at around 4:30. It does air on 3 o'clock on Mondays, although we're in the playoffs now, and so some of our airings are slightly different. This is for online. It always airs roughly the same time on NBA TV, at 6:30. Yeah, so we get up, we get in, I drop my son off at daycare, we get in and basically start thinking about what we're going to talk about, what's the best story to talk about, what's the most, sort of juiciest topic right now in the NBA, and then we try to flush it out as how we're going to approach it and sort of what angle we're going to take. And that takes, pretty much for the most part, 5 hours or so, because there's so much preparation that goes into it about what stats we want to show, what board we want to have, what B-roll we want to show, if we want to highlight any specific plays.
Yeah.
And so we all kind of build that together, and then around about, I guess, sort of 1 o'clock, we all stick together at the same table, but we all start preparing our own notes and our own way of how we're going to approach that subject. And then we get on set around half an hour before the show, and we go over sort of the B-roll and again some of the boards, just some of the things that we're going to talk about if we want to have a look at, just to see how if the B-roll is going to suit what we're going to say, and then maybe we need to mix things up or whatever, or make an adjustment. And then basically as soon as the show ends, we start preparing for the next day. We meet again in another room. Skeets starts preparing the notes for the podcast, and Taff puts together a few clips for NBA TV, for NBA.com that he wants to get uploaded. And we just start building the shell for the next day, and it's a process that basically, again, 5:30, 6 o'clock, we go home, and then we all have our own sort of life for about an hour. I try to play with my son and feed him and bath him and read to him, put him to bed, and then the games are started. And so you're always then getting ready to watch the game and trying to start taking notes or however you prepare, just to try to, so you're ready for the next morning. So
yeah.
it's honestly, it just never ends, and it's one of those things that you can't really take a day or two off, because even on weekends there's always something that you need to be fresh and up to date with. And that's the thing about the league. It's very intense for probably 8 to 10 months of the year, and you need to be on top of it. And fortunately, things die down a little bit in August and September, but these days, with the way the global news cycle is going, I mean, there always seems to be something happening.
Before I let you go, I'm a huge Nets fan. No, I'm the only one. But what's your take on this Nets-Hawks series? Last night was brutal.
Yeah, well, it was brutal, I guess, in the end for the Nets. They missed that shot there, and Williams had a shot there at the baseline that could have changed things. They've been pretty competitive. They've been more competitive than I thought.
Yeah.
They're not a good team. They're not a pretty team to watch.
No.
They don't have great body language, and they don't have great energy. They don't seem to be all that sort of invested in their coach, Lionel Hollins. And I think you've got guys like Darren Williams, whose career really has just fallen off a cliff. And then you've got someone like Joe Johnson, Joe Johnson is one of my favourite all-time players, because he always delivers. And, he doesn't have that big, flashy highlight dunk, but, man, when the game's on the line, I want the ball in his hand.
He's clutch.
I'm sort of surprised he passed to Darren Williams last night.
I know.
But, Brook Lopez is the key for the Nets in this series. He's an enormous man, and the one question about the Atlanta Hawks has been all season, are they big enough to contend with a big body?
Yep.
And, Brook Lopez has been good for them. So, I definitely can see the Nets taking a game off the Hawks, but that's probably the best they can hope for, because they just don't inspire me. I don't look at the Nets and think they really, really want this. I think they kind of just go through the motions a lot.
Exactly right.
That's got to be disappointing for Nets fans, because you've got that great arena there. You've got an owner who, whether or not he's going to be the owner for much longer, who knows? But he doesn't care about salary cap or anything. He wants to win.
Yeah.
And Darren Williams is a bit the same. He's still capable of doing it, but you're just like, this guy, man, he's getting paid all that money, and he just does not deliver. So you wonder what the future holds for him. But and also Brooklyn have got some really cool uniforms, if that helps.
There you go.
They look so cool when they're in black all the time. That's a really, really slick outfit. So they've got that going for them.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
I think they're probably, they gave up all those draft picks to get Pearson going in, and we knew that was a risky short-term move.
Yeah.
I still applaud an owner who goes for it like that. You want an owner who's like, I don't care the cost. I want to try to win now. He tried, he failed, but at least he didn't just sit on his hands and just go, well, let's see if we can make it to 8 every year and see if we can pull off an upset.
No, I agree. That's what the Nets have been doing for so many years before he got here. So it was refreshing. It was exciting. And now it's just Darren. Who's winning the NBA title this year? Who are you taking?
Man, it's a great question. The Golden State Warriors have done absolutely everything right to this point, and also they've had either the best defense or offense pretty much all season long. So they've got no real vulnerability. Except that LeBron James plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
I'm saying the Warriors just over the Cavs. I think the Warriors do it in 6 or 7 now. And, of course, that's discounting the San Antonio Spurs, who tied up their series with the Clippers last night.
Yep.
The Warriors have just, usually you can find something wrong with a team that hasn't been in this position before, like the Warriors are. You can say their bench or their coach or they lack something, but they tick all the boxes. They've got the superstars, Steph Curry, Clay, Draymond, Bogut, all been very good. They've got a good bench. Steve Kerr has done an amazing job in his first season. They've got home court advantage, and that home court advantage is a real advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Too. They're fresh, they're hungry, they're young. They're even though they haven't necessarily been deep in the playoffs, they've been to the playoffs and they've been battle tested. So they've got everything that you would want in a team that is a real contender, other than the fact they've never been to the finals before, and LeBron's been there the last 4 years and 5 overall. So either way, it's great. It's really, really good for NBA fans because, for so long you kind of looked like last year we kind of felt the Spurs and the Heat were getting back there pretty much all season.
Yep.
And that was, it's a little bit disappointing when you can kind of see that early on in the season and then it ends up that way. You want it to be where it's like, you know what, you can make a case for 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah.
And that's what I can see right now, and that's what I really hope. I mean, I'm not going to be disappointed, if the Memphis Grizzlies make it, because maybe for TV ratings they won't be as hot as other teams. But for me, as a genuine basketball fan, I just want to see the best team who play the best basketball have success.
That would be really exciting. I'm going with the Warriors too. I think this is their year. They've got everything. So yeah, Nets Warriors in the final. It's going to be fun. It'll be exciting. Nets are going to shock the world. But Leigh, thank you so much for coming on Terrific Talk. This was really great. Everybody make sure, check Leigh out on Twitter. Join his Twitter army. His handle is @Leigh Ellis. Easy to remember. Check him out on NBA TV on The Starters. If you like this podcast, tweet at me using the hashtag Terrific Talk with your thoughts on Leigh. Leigh, thanks again. This was great. Good luck the rest of the playoffs here.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.